Also just got rid of the sound recording, so we're going to go to we'll talk about that in the here. And, you know, you guys can so we'll go ahead and move on. So the we'll talk about tonight is we're going to first half of the group is going to be what's going to experience, you know, who we are, what makes us especially unique, and then we'll talk about the application process for the second half. Right, so like I mentioned, I 3 minutes ago. I did my school in 2006, and when I was 2006, so assistant management and graduated in 2010 as an infantry officer. All right.
Captain Gilbert, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Captain. We are barely getting your sound through. It's probably a Wi-Fi problem on your end. Could we ask possibly Lieutenant Talley try, or you can change microphones?
Check, check. Can you hear me out there?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
I hear you clear, Lieutenant.
Captain Gilbert, if you keep going with the slides, I can take it from here.
All right, got it.
All right, next slide. All right, so this is our beautiful and beloved academy. This is our campus at West Point. It is about 45 minutes north of Manhattan. So when we're not locked down due to a pandemic, our cadets do enjoy going down there on the weekend. All right, next slide. All right, just touching on some of the leaders that we produced. As you can see, you might recognize some of these names, you know, some phrase that we like to use at the academy. The history that we teach was made by those who we've taught. So you probably recognize General Douglas MacArthur, Benjamin O. Davis, commander of the Tuskegee Airmen class in 1936. For my basketball fans out there, you probably heard of Coach K. He's also a West Point grad. And on the civilian side of the house, I guarantee everybody in here probably has a Johnson & Johnson product around there somewhere. We're very proud of our CEO of Johnson & Johnson, class 1982, Alex Gorski. Next. All right, we'll give you a couple minutes to read the slide. All right. To educate, train, and inspire the Corps cadets so that each graduate is a commissioned leader of character. Character is the main takeaway from our mission statement. We take that very seriously, and we make sure that through the honor code, I know this is apparent at other academies as well, but the honor system at West Point and the type of people that we bring in really solidifies the character that they come in with. And you know, that's what's in the secret sauce. Everybody wants to know what's in the secret sauce. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what it is. Educate, train, inspire, commission leaders of character. Next slide. All right, so we're just gonna hit on a few pillars here. academic, physical, military, and back to that character piece. So we'll just kind of go through the slides and we'll end up touching on each one. All right, before we get into that, we're gonna talk a little bit about ratings. Everybody likes ratings, right? So #1 top public school. We just got #1 best public college library in 2019. We got to get that updated. The #1 most accessible professors. So if you talk to a West Point graduate, chances are they have a story of when, you know, it was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, back against the wall, trying to finish a problem set. And they had the fidelity to reach out to their instructor via email or phone. Now, I don't recommend that anybody procrastinate and get themselves in a position, but it just goes to show how accessible our professors are, because there was once a time where Cadet Tally found himself in that situation and ended up calling Colonel Bianchi. He wasn't too happy to hear from me at 10:30 at night because he also had a family, but he helped me through that, and we worked through it all the way into the next day. And I ended up getting a C on the assignment, but hey, that's not what it's about. It's about getting through adversity, and our professors are there to help us do that. And everybody who's on staff, professors or not, they are there to facilitate the development of cadets. Next slide. All right, so as you'll see in this slide, 80% of our faculty is active duty Army officers. Some of those are tenure professors, so they'd be your full bird colonels and those with PhDs. And the other half is going to be those who have come back straight from the master's program, and they have the latest and greatest in information to come back and teach our cadets. Another thing to note is the 15 to 18 cadet class size. So I know when I was at the academy, my largest class was 16 and my smallest class was 5. And that kind of goes back to that accessible professors piece, because your professor really gets to learn how you learn. So that being said, he knew that Cadet Tally had to learn just by doing problems on the chalkboard. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we still have blackboards. And that's what I did. I just had to do problems on the blackboard, whereas some of my counterparts were able to hear it once and pick it up, or, you know, everybody just learns a different way. So that being said, we do have accessible professors, and it is a lot of military folk there as well. Next. All right. So going into the academic program, I don't want to get lost in the minutia of this slide, but one thing I do want to point out is the blue is essentially your core classes and the yellow is your elective classes. So in that, you'll notice that your freshman or your plebe year, the majority of, you know, your peers are going to be taking the same class at the same time. And that's where we really start to build those bonds through, you know, homework, math tests. You know, everybody's kind of going through the same adversity and learning how to be a service academy cadet at the exact same time. So, you know, as you progress, you get a little bit more specialized into what you want to research and what you want to do, where you want to major in. But that's pretty much the gist of this slide. Next. All right. So a lot of good majors at West Point. I'm biased. I'll tell anybody who asks me that systems engineering is the best major at West Point, not just because I was that major, but it was extremely interesting and invigorating. But just take a look at the list of academic majors. We have 36 academic majors, 15 minors, and a lot of good stuff there. Keep in mind that service academies are STEM heavy, so West Point is definitely in that category. You'll notice there's a lot of engineering, a lot of science. The question always comes up, is there a path to become a doctor? Is there a path to become a lawyer? And the answer is yes. So about 20 or so, 20, 25 cadets every year graduate, and they go straight into a medical program where they're pursuing their doctors in medicine. And if you have aspirations to become a lawyer, you will have to commission first. You can't branch directly into the JAG Corps, but after you serve your platoon leader time, about 3 or 4 years in the force, you can apply for the funded legal education program, where we'll foot the bill for your Juris Doctorate and then allow you to practice as a lawyer in the Army. So all good things there. Next. All right, this is a fan favorite right here, our military development program. All right, so everybody asks about cadet basic training. And cadet basic training, the essence of cadet basic training is to teach you how to be a follower, right? Because in order to be a good leader, you must first be a good follower, right? So in that, we take a high school graduate into a polished West Point cadet in about 6 weeks. In that, we're going to teach you how to wear a uniform. We're going to teach you the basics of, being a soldier, following orders, and really coming up with plans in order to, make you a more developed cadet and let you grow in our leader development system. As you get towards your sophomore year, then we start to give you a little bit of responsibility and then make the training a little bit more advanced. So it really kind of builds on the things that you learned in your first summer. Our military development program takes place during the summers. And that year, we have cadet field training. You're going to learn advanced marksmanship, advanced land navigation. If you're navigating in the morning, we might put you on a night land navigation course and things such as that. All right, next. All right. So as you get into your later summer training events, you'll get your cadet troop leader training. You can take that either your junior year or your senior year. That's why there's no distinct divide between anything on this slide. Your cadet troop leader training basically will send you to an active duty Army base. You'll get to shadow a second lieutenant or a first lieutenant and get to see what your day-to-day is going to be like and see if that's the branch that you want to join. During your cadet leader development training, it's like a 3-week culminating experience. And basically it's almost like a final test of everything that we've taught you in the past summer. So you have to draw back from your cadet basic training, your cadet field training, and we'll give you some problems, some field problems, and then have you reach in your back pocket and use some of those tools we taught you earlier to solve them. You're going to have the opportunity for individual advanced development. Now, this can be military or it can be academic. All right, so military, you see these guys jumping out of the C-130 up there. That's airborne school. All right, so we'll send you to a lot of cool Army schools. You have a list of military leadership schools, airborne, air assault, sapper. We send cadets all around the world to train. And then on the academic side of the house, we do have AIDs, where we'll send cadets to Haiti for an environmental service project and things such as that. So a lot of good opportunities when you're coming to West Point for your development, your growth, enrichment. Next. All right, physical development. So what you see those guys doing, they're running the IOCT indoor obstacle course test. And you'll see that also on this slide. So the long and short of your physical development program is to make sure that you have the skills that you need to, one, successfully navigate your military career in good physical condition, and two, to have a foundation where you'll be able to lead soldiers and teach them some of the things that you learned in order to be physically fit and meet the standards of the Army. So you'll notice we got some survival swimming. So we're going to make sure that you're comfortable in the water. We got some combat applications and also the indoor obstacle course test. It's a pretty fun test. All in all, it'll take you about 3 minutes to run. I guarantee you'll be tired after. But the gist of the physical development program, you don't have to be Superman and Wonder Woman when you come to West Point, right? The reason we ask you to take the candidate fitness assessment is that is a measure of how successful you will be during the physical development program. But we have 47 months to turn you into Superman and Wonder Woman. So if you can pass the CFA, you can do a good job on the CFA. Don't you worry, we're going to make sure that you're taken care of. Next slide. All right. So in conjunction with the classes that you're going to take, we have a phrase at the Academy: every cadet's an athlete, right? So you see 26 NCAA sports, 16 club sports, 12 company athletic teams, right? So I myself, I didn't play any D1 sports, nor did I play club sports. I was like those guys wearing the H1 and D2 jerseys. I played flag football, all right? So everybody's going to play a sport if you come to West Point. Whatever level of athlete are, that's probably the sport level that you're going to be playing on. But if nothing else, you're going to be playing an intramural sport, right? Kind of continues to build those bonds. That's, fitness with fun and some of those experiences that you'll have on the fields of friendly strife, things that you're going to take with you for the rest of your life. Next. All right, typical cadet day. So don't be alarmed by the 6 a.m. I know a lot of people are alarmed by that. You'll definitely get used to that. But first formation's at 7, right? So we want to make sure all our cadets make it to first formation. And then there's going to be a block of study time, right? So it's going to be classes or study time. So in that, you're going to go to whatever classes you have. And then all the cadets are going to get together for lunch formation. All the cadets go to lunch at the same time. And then there's going to be another block of instruction or study time, depending on your schedule. And then after that, you're going to go to your athletics. So that's when you do that. You know, if you're an NCAA athlete or if you do club sports or intramurals, that's the time that you're going to have for that. Everybody goes to dinner around the same time. And then for all the parents out there watching this, you're going to love this part. ESP, evening study period. So for all of our freshmen and sophomore, we have mandatory study time from 7 to 11 p.m. And basically that is to really get good study habits early on, get a solid foundation to make sure that cadets are successful at West Point, because the academics are rigorous. And we want to make sure they have time set aside to do all of their homework and make sure that they're going to be good to go for the next days of classes. And then you see at 12 a.m. lights out. Next. All right. So much like the other service academies, we're not going to charge you a dime. You're going to come to West Point. You're not going to pay for anything. The hardest part about West Point is getting in. But once you get into the academy, West Point's going to take care of everything from your healthcare, tuition, room and board, and we're going to pay you a little. We're going to put a little money in your pocket. Right. So this was especially near and dear to me because when before I was a cadet, I was looking for a way to pay for college. I knew I wanted to go to a great college and I knew I didn't have the money to go. So this worked out perfectly. Two birds, one stone, amazing institution. And I was able to graduate debt free and get a pretty sweet job afterwards. So I know I'm not the only one who's in that position. It might be some people who are on this call who are in that position, or moms and dads who just want to save a little bit of money. It's not a bad option at all. Next. And that could be you, all right? So when you get your West Point certificate of appointment, you know, take a picture, be proud, you know, welcome to the Army team. And yeah, we'll see about getting you on next year's slides. All right. So let's talk about the application process. So if you were on last night, some of this stuff is similar. There is a lot of overlap between the Service Academy's processes. So just bear with me. You might learn some more stuff about, you know, if you missed something yesterday or whatever, but we're just going to go through the nuts and bolts of how we're going to knock this application out. All right. So the candidate application. 60-30-10 is the most important thing in our process. When Captain Gilbert and I are evaluating files, these are the things that we're looking at, right? So with the whole candidate concept, we want to make sure that we're not just getting smart people, we're not just getting extremely fit people, and we're not getting people who don't have any leadership skills. And here's the criteria for that. So your high school GPA, previously it was high school class rank. We have since done away with high school class rank and it's now your GPA. And for all of you asking out there, it's going to be the weighted GPA, because we want to make sure that you get credit for your AP classes, your IB classes, or anything that you might be doing that challenges a little bit more in class. ACT or SAT, it has to be with the writing. Now we do super score. So you can send 15 SATs. If you've been taking SATs since the beginning of your junior year, you can send all of those to your admissions officer and we'll accept all of those. You need to have done the writing at least once. We recommend that you do it every time, but you need to have the writing at least once, and then that'll allow us to super score, basically giving you the best score of each category and putting those together. And then that's the score that we're going to use for your application. So you see, academics is extremely important. I'm going to hit that part one more time. So for, you know, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen who might be on this call, pay attention and make sure that you're doing what you need to do in the classroom, because that's going to be the biggest portion of your application. Going into leadership, right? 30%. So your extracurricular. So you see Boy State, Girl State, Eagle Scout Gold Award. These are all really important things as far as showing us, you know, potential leadership. So this also goes for clubs, right? So I'll paint a picture for you. If you had one candidate who was a member of 12 different clubs, and you had another candidate who was a member of 4 clubs, but in those clubs, they were the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary, respectively, that second candidate is going to be more competitive because they have more demonstrated leadership potential. All right. So you need to make sure that you're pursuing those leadership positions if you are in those clubs. And yeah, tracking no boy state or girl state this year, but if you were selected to go to boy state or girl state, if you can get a letter from the American Legion or whoever nominated you to go to that program, we can still count that as well, right? Because that's demonstrated leadership. So just make sure you get with your admissions officer and get that put in your file. All right, so athletic participation. So for your athletic participation, we'd love for you to be playing a sport. It shows your physical prowess. But in that sport, we want to make sure that you are pursuing something like maybe you're a team captain, if you play football, defensive captain, All-American, all these accolades that go with sports. You want to make sure that your admissions officer knows about that because that shows us a little bit something about your leadership potential as well. And I definitely answered a question about this earlier, but the school official evaluations are similar to recommendations. They're not the same as letters of recommendation, but they're very similar. I know somebody asked about an ROTC instructor earlier. So the benefit of being in junior ROTC or ROTC is that your SAI can actually write that recommendation for you or the school official evaluation for you, and they can administer your CFA, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So your school official evaluations, basically we're going to ask for 4 evaluations from a math teacher, a science teacher, your PE teacher, a math teacher, and your English teacher. All right, so those are the 4 categories. So make sure you get in touch with somebody who likes you. I say that because I've seen some crazy things this year, but make sure you get in touch with somebody who likes you, have a good rapport with, and then have them do your recommendation. And that's going to go under that leadership as well. And then lastly, the 10%. Right? So your basketball throw, pull-ups, or flexed arm hang, 40-yard shuttle run modified, sit-ups, push-ups, and a 1-mile run event. All right. So for those who've never done the CFA before and you want to apply to any service academy, I recommend you do it. Right? Not necessarily for record, but do a diagnostic. I had a lot of candidates this year who just practiced pull-ups, who just practiced push-ups, and then when they put the whole test together, it all fell apart. So the test is designed to be rigorous, right? So make sure that when you're training for the test, you are doing the whole test and you're just doing a diagnostic and testing yourself. See how you perform on the 1-mile run after you've done 5 events prior to. All right. So you'll see green and asterisk, there is a pull-ups and flexed arm hang and a push-up. The reason that is green asterisk is because we require videos. So make sure that when you send your videos in, that before you record it, you have watched the video instruction on your portal. That way you don't have to send videos in a second, third, and fourth time. Basically, we need to see your whole body in the frame. We need to know who you are. So a state ID, school ID, and your candidate number. And then you execute the exercise. All right. So saving or watching the video instruction prior to recording your video is save your admissions officer and yourself a lot of heartache. And there's also an interview that goes into this process as well. So we get some more insight on you as a candidate, either a field force or one of our local representatives will be able to do that. Or if you come up to SLE, for those who are, sophomores and freshmen, unfortunately, SLE has been canceled for this year. You'll have the opportunity to do the interview. All right. And lastly, the bold underline on the bottom, 31 January, that is our application deadline. So just make sure you have everything turned in. I would recommend, as your admissions officer, to have things turned in well before 31 January, but that is the deadline for the application. Next. All right, medical qualification. So we're going to give you a medical exam. All right. And basically the reason we're giving you a medical exam because it alludes to what we talked about earlier. You're going to get free healthcare. All right. So coming into the academy, we need to make sure that we know your medical history and, if you're going to be medically capable to perform the things that we're going to ask you to perform in the academic space and in the physical space. All right. So that being said, you're going to go to your .MERB appointments. You're going to make that .METS account and you're going to schedule your own appointments at a local clinic and we're going to pay for it. You're going to get one of 3 statuses back. You're going to get qualified, remedial, or disqualified. Qualified, you're good to go. Remedial usually means that the doctor needs some more information they need to do another test or something before they make a final decision on your file. Disqualified means it doesn't necessarily mean the end of the road for a competitive candidate. And that goes down to that last bullet. Medical waivers are issued on a case-by-case basis. So that being said, if the more competitive you make yourself, if you get disqualified, the better your chance of receiving a waiver. There's no way that you or mom or the principal or the ROTC instructor can call West Point and request a waiver on your behalf. It's a function of the admissions office to select the candidates for waivers. Hopefully you don't end up in that spot. We get qualified right through the board, but just giving you a little insight on our process. So there's no way that you can contact us and ask for a waiver. The medical deadline is April 15th. It's crossed off here because this year it got a little hairy with the outbreak of the pandemic. So we're giving candidates a lot of slack to be able to turn in what they needed to turn in because hospitals were, or clinics weren't able to see candidates and stuff. So hopefully it's not as cloudy this year, but you definitely want to get your medical done as soon as possible. You don't want to get anywhere near April 15th. The reason I say that is because if you do your first appointment on April 13th and you get a remedial, the file's probably going to be closed because remedials take about 2 to 3 weeks to come back with a decision. So make sure you start early. Make sure you start early. Make sure you start early. Next slide. All right. So touching on the nomination again, I know we kind of talked about nominations earlier, so hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. But every candidate who applies to West Point who's a United States citizen is eligible for 4 nominations right off the bat. Your House of Representatives, your local representative, your 2 state senators, and the vice presidential nomination. Again, you would just go on the White House website and then do the application via there. As far as service-connected nominations, the presidential is just sons and daughters of career military, career being they spent 20 years in whatever service and retired. Or if they are reserve, then it's going to be if they have more than 2,880 points. If you don't know what that means, it's okay. Your parents, if they were reserves, they're going to know what that means. If they have more than 2,880 points, then that counts. Unfortunately, no uncles, brothers, sisters, grandma, granddad. It's got to be mom or dad. All right. If you are an active duty soldier in the National Guard or Reserve, you're eligible for a nomination there. If you're in JRTC, huge advantage. If you're Army JRTC, then right off the bat, you can apply for the JRTC nomination or Army ROTC. If you're not Army, then it has to be an honor unit with distinction. So if you guys did well on your inspection, your honor unit with distinction. Talk to your SAI if you're not sure, but if you are, you definitely qualify for the JRTC nomination. Sons and daughters of deceased or 100% disabled veterans, or sons and daughters of Medal Honor awardees, you guys are also eligible for a nomination. But hopefully we got a lot of the nomination questions answered with the first briefer. All right, so that application deadline is there once again. So it's very important in this process that you start early. I know somebody asked earlier that the application window, you want to make sure that if you're interested now, just go ahead and open up an application if you're a junior. And if you're a sophomore, it's got to be in January of your junior year, right? So we open those up pretty early. We give you about a year to work on your application. So use the time. Use the time. If you know you need some improvement in the CFA or in your SAT or ACT, definitely take advantage of the time and use it wisely. Next. All right. So I get a lot of questions about the prep school. All right. So the prep school is the slots are allocated by admissions officers. So the way to get in the prep school is to apply to West Point just like everybody else. And we have functions inside the admissions office where we'll identify a candidate who may be a potential prep school candidate. So basically everything that we're looking for in the profile is strong, and you need improvement in some areas. It could be like, we need to make sure that, you improve a little bit in math or a little bit in English or something like that. But there are some areas that need improvement in the application, but you're still a strong candidate, demonstrated leader in your community, physically fit. You might be an ideal candidate for the prep school. The prep school is co-located, so it's on West Point proper. It's about 5-6 minutes up the road from the academy, and same benefits go with the prep school. So you're not gonna have to pay to go to use maps. That's what we call it for short. You're not gonna have to pay to go to use maps. We're gonna make sure that your healthcare is covered, and we're also gonna give you a paycheck while you're going there as well. We do have civil prep program options. Those are also kind of case-by-case basis. So you talk to your admissions officer, you'll be identified and you will be notified if you fit into that category for both the prep school and civil prep. Next. All right, come see us. Well, probably hard to do right now, but as soon as the floodgates open back open, come see us. And it's nice and safe to travel. We love to have you. Myself and Captain Gilbert, when we're not traveling and talking to, the best and brightest around the nation, we are giving campus visits and campus tours. So you can hop online, give us a call at that number, or just jump on the website, schedule an appointment to do a daily visit. If you are a competitive candidate, we will let you know. You'll be notified, and then we'll authorize you to come on an overnight visit. And really, you'll get to see, hey, is this a place for me? You'll be able to go to class with a cadet. You'll get to eat in the cadet mess hall. You'll probably be blown away by that place. It looks like right out of a Harry Potter scene. But yeah, you'll get a chance to come check it out. You'll sit through a couple of classes, and yeah, it's really a good time, and it gives you perspective. Like, this is the right decision for you. You want to make sure you come check it out first. All right. Unfortunately, the SLE this summer has been canceled, right? And that's for safety reasons. We don't want to get anybody sick or put anybody in danger coming to SLE. But next year, given the climate, we should have SLE up and running. But basically what that is a 1-week immersion for candidates at United States Military Academy. So you'll be there, you'll sleep in the barracks, you'll go to a couple of leaders reaction courses, you'll go to a couple of obstacle courses, you'll go to a couple of classes, and it's really a chance for you to feel out, is this experience what I want to do for college, right? So we're gonna treat you just like a cadet for a week, and it's totally immersive. So you'll see exactly what life is like at West Point, and hopefully you'll leave there a little bit more motivated than you did when you came, excited and ready to join the next class. Next. All right, couple things we want to hit on here again. So this is more or less an overview. I'll tell you again, as an admissions officer, my recommendation is to start as early as possible. Sometimes, depending on how early you open an application and how quickly and efficiently you can get everything done and turned in, it could be that could be the decision between getting in and not getting in. I'll just be plain and tell you. I had some really competitive candidates open up an application last minute, and things didn't go right, with medical, and then we got remedials and all this other stuff, and they end up bleeding over a couple of those deadlines and unfortunately weren't able to get in. So if you start early, it gives you a buffer. You get time to do medical. You get time to make sure your essays look good, get the test scores you need if you need to retest. So just make sure you start early. Be proactive. If you have questions, ask them. Myself and the rest of the admissions team, we often do things on Facebook Live, right? So just hop on the West Point admissions page, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and then you'll be able to see some of these Q&A. We do live Q&A, so we'll be able to answer some of these questions for you. Going back to how you're going to tackle this application, right? So 60% is academic. 60% is academic. So if your SAT or ACTs aren't where they need to be, maybe do a couple less push-ups and a couple more hours of studying to make sure your application is looking right. Okay. Next. All right, and this is the team. All right, so you see myself and Captain Gilbert in the Southwest region holding it down for New Mexico. But yeah, this is our team. And if you have anybody with any questions outside of your state and in the respective states, don't be afraid to reach out. We're more than happy and willing to help you out and take care of you. Next. And this is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. So for me, this was May 21st, 2016. by far the best decision I've made in my life thus far. Going to West Point, graduating, getting a chance to throw my hat in the air and call myself a West Point graduate. The feeling is like none other. I'll tell you, it was very surreal that day. I was standing out in the plane, and you know, and then that's kind of when life started. So amazing decision. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm sure Captain Gilbert wouldn't either. But this is where everybody wants to get to, and I'm telling you, it's an amazing feeling. Next. And that's all we have. So we can definitely open it up to Q&A at this time. Let's go through some of these questions. Captain Gilbert, you want to try the audio?
All right, can you guys hear me now? Any luck?
Oh, loud and clear. That's good.
All right. Must have been all that all the stuff linked to my Wi-Fi. I don't know. We'll see. So great job. Thanks, Lieutenant Talley. I'm not going to share my face right now because I don't want to jinx the good coverage I'm getting on audio here. So now we'll do some questions. Some of the things I was able to see. Keep them flowing. Then I'll look. You know, the question we get a lot is, can you apply for the prep school? Short answer is no.
Captain Gilbert, we are losing you again.
All right.
All right, so I'll follow up with that one. Yeah, that was a valiant effort. Your Wi-Fi's got something against you tonight. So yeah, we get that question all the time. Hey, how could I apply for the prep school? And I'll just reiterate one more time that, you know, you can't apply for the prep school directly. It is a function of the admissions office to identify those who we think would be great prep school candidates. So our advice to those who are applying is to put your best foot forward. Put your best foot forward, and you know, try to get in direct. If we notify you, hey, you might be a good candidate for the prep school, then we'll let you know, and then we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. But put your best foot forward as far as doing the best you can and building the best application that you can. And we're going to definitely try to reserve a spot for you. Great question. I'm just going to jump back here. Oh, this is a good one. So I got one from my Jordan Harrison family. What happens after graduation? All right, so I'm glad you asked. So when you graduate from West Point, at that point, you are, you know, at graduation, you'll raise your right hand and you'll commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. And that can mean a lot of things, right? So currently we have 17 different branches. So branches inside the Army are pretty much career fields. So myself, I am an air defense artillery officer. So when I graduated, I went to basic school to learn how to protect friendly forces against tactical ballistic missiles and lead teams that do that. So that took me to Fort Hood, Texas, where I showed up on a Friday. And that next Monday, I was put in charge of 26 soldiers, and we did our mission. So we trained, we learned how to do, you know, what we were charged to do, tactical ballistic missile defense. End up getting deployed to Kuwait, where we did a 9-month mission there. Came back, everybody was safe. We had a good time, and then I got selected to come back to West Point as an admissions officer. Right, so the Army gives you a lot of leeway as far as jobs that you can pick. So again, I kind of touched on it earlier. We have doctors, we have lawyers. But in the 17 core branches, you could be, you know, Captain Gilbert is an infantryman. So all that cool stuff you see going on in Call of Duty, that you can ask him a ton of questions about. I'm sure he's got stories for you. We have finance officers, we have logistics officers, we have aviators, right? So we don't have a bunch of cool jets like the Air Force Academy, but we do have rotary wing aircraft. So those attack helicopters, cargo helicopter stuff that you see, tanks. So pretty much the sky's the limit as far as jobs, what you want to do inside the Army. But you're definitely going to have to pick one of those core branches. I saw a lot of stuff, a lot of traffic about cyber. So we do have a cyber branch, meaning that we have a branch dedicated to the Army where you can do offensive and defensive hacking operations, and that'll be your full-time job for the Army. So we're all about leading people. We're all about leading teams. And the branch assignments, you know, you just pick something that you're interested in and then you go from there. All right, let me go some of these other questions. All right. Will we get into military schools while at West Point? Great question. So the answer is yes. There's a high probability, there's a 90% chance that you'll end up going to some military school. And I say 90% because some cadets don't, all right? So the vast majority of cadets who come out of West Point have either gone to air assault or airborne school. Myself, I went to air assault school when I was a sophomore or rising sophomore at the academy. Now air assault school is a little bit more common because we have an air assault course co-located with the campus. So we have the ability to train a lot more cadets in the air assault school. Basically, that's rappelling out of helicopters and tying cargo to the bottom of helicopters safely. Your airborne school, getting into a big plane and learning how to effectively jump out and make sure you land safely and you know all the postures and positions to do such. We also have a lot of other cool schools. Like I alluded to earlier, you can do Brazilian mountaineering, French commando school, jungle school, sapper school. So all of these are military schools to help you kind of hone your military skills, warfighter skills, and be a better leader, right? A lot of these military schools are also leadership schools as well. So really letting you be a better leader and learn some tactics that can help you later on in your military career. So we have a lot of funding, just like the other service academies. We have a lot of funding, arguably more funding if you go the ROTC option. When on the ROTC option, you have to compete for some of these military schools. At West Point, we have a lot more billets and a lot more slots. So chances are the competition will be a lot less rigorous, you know, a lot less competitive when you're going to some of these schools. So great question. All right. Next question. So if you got into SLE this year, do you still get credit for it? That's a great question. So it's almost a trick question, but it is a great question. So SLE, the experience of SLE is really for you. It's for the candidate. It doesn't do anything for your competitiveness to West Point. The perks of coming to SLE is you get an opportunity to knock out the candidate fitness assessment. If you do well on the candidate fitness assessment, it goes straight into your application. If you do not so well, then it won't count against you. So everybody gets 2 tries to do the candidate fitness assessment. If you go to SLE, then hey, that one just counted as a freebie if you didn't do as well as you wanted to. But other than that, SLE is not an indicator of your competitiveness. And just because you went to SLE doesn't mean that you get a leg up over any candidate who didn't go to SLE. So no, you don't get credit for SLE necessarily, but great question. How many years do you serve after graduation? So you're going to serve 5 years active duty, right? So currently I'm still in my active duty obligation. I graduated in 2016 from West Point, and I have to stay in the Army at least until May 21st of 2021. We'll probably stay in because it's a really good career, but you know, after that, if you decide, hey, I want to go out into the civilian world, do something else, or join the reserves, you can have those conversations, but it's a minimum of 5 years. All right. Another great question. If we don't take PE, who can we use for our PE SOE, right? So again, the PESOE is your physical education school official evaluation. Is one of those four basically letters of recommendation that we require. So there are a lot of candidates out there who, like, you know, you have band, right? And that counts as PE, or you have some kind of extracurricular that counts as PE, and that's fine. There's a lot of students in that situation. If you don't have a PE instructor, your best practice is to consult first with your admissions officer, right? And see who the next person in that chain is. But, you know, we'll probably defer you to your ROTC instructor, if you have an ROTC instructor. If you don't have an ROTC instructor, then we could defer you to your athletic director, somebody who taught you health class, right? So there's a lot of different contingencies that we have to get that PESOE done. But just to make sure you're going to the right person, you want to just double check with your admissions officer first, and then we'll point you in the right direction based off of the classes that you're taking. All right, another question for Mr. Santiago. All right, can you do more than one military school? Absolutely, yes. So if you decide, hey, I want to do air assault and airborne, right? Everything is kind of give and take. So during the summers, when you're coming to West Point, your summers, you're going to be training most of your summers. You're going to be doing the requirements that you saw in the military slide. So with that, you pretty much have the option, right? So if you want to sneak in air assault in there, you want to throw airborne in there, just know that you're going to be giving up a little bit of your leave time, but it's absolutely possible. You kind of decide your own future as far as that. And if that's something that you really want to do, generally for the more strenuous military schools like Sapper School and whatnot, there'll be a tryout portion. If that's something that you're excited about, then, you know, go ahead and try out. And you qualify, we'll make sure you get over to Sapper School. But you can absolutely do more than one military school. I got a lot of buddies who are air assault and airborne qualified, and they got that done at West Point. All right. I see we're knocking out a lot of the questions. Okay, another good question. If I take the CFA for another academy, will West Point use it? The short answer is yes. Everybody who has the same candidate fitness assessment, we will use that score. Like if you went to their SLE, I know the acronym is different, but if you went to their summer program and you took the CFA, just let your admissions officer know. And then, you know, we can either request or have the score sent, and then we can make that work for your CFA. I know Coast Guard has a different physical assessment. So unfortunately, we won't be able to accept Coast Guards. But the caveat here is that you will still have to submit videos, right? So if you went to Navy and you did the CFA, you're still going to have to submit videos to West Point, just like if you were a regular applicant submitting those videos. So that's still going to be a requirement, despite if you take it at another service academy. Okay, here's a good one. If I'm currently serving as enlisted in the Army, do I have to wait for the end of my contract to apply for any of the service academies? And the answer is no. The answer is no. You do not have to wait until your contract expires. You're gonna get in touch with Major, because he just got promoted. You're gonna get in touch with Major Mason or Captain Nash, and you'll kind of work your application through them. So every year we do have active duty soldiers who come to West Point, and they go in, you know, freshman year just like everybody else. But no, you do not have to wait for your contract to expire. Great question. All right, going through the questions here. I got to give a hand to the facilitators and the moderators. You guys are knocking out a lot of these questions. Thanks for the support.
Hey, Tally, can you hear me? This is Captain Gilbert.
Yep, I got you.
All right, I got one here from Raymond. If your enlisted branch is different from a service academy you're applying to, it's possible, but that branch will have to release you. So it's been done before, and they can release you. If you're coming from Army and you're coming to West Point, it's kind of a guaranteed thing. If you're trying to come from a different branch, yes, it's possible, just not as guaranteed. Hey, Jamar, is that ECP program? Is that what program is that you're referring to? All right, well, he gets back to me. So I got a question here, Ranger School wall at West Point. There has been time frames where cadets can go to Ranger School wall at West Point. The reason they don't do it is if you get held over at Ranger School, you're still going to have to come back to West Point in September to finish your classes. So generally no, but if you branch infantry, you'll absolutely have an opportunity to go to Ranger School. So I branched infantry, went to Fort, I guess if everyone's hearing me, I can talk a little bit more. I was actually did 2 military schools while I was at West Point. I went to and then specific went to Fort Lewis, Washington, and was a Ranger platoon leader out at Fort Lewis. So that's the process to get to Ranger Regiment as an officer.
Oh, Captain Gilbert, this is Gay Harrison again. I'm so sorry to tell you, you keep cutting out. We're missing good information from you. Lieutenant Talley, if you're still on, we might need you to take over again.
Can you hear me?
Lieutenant, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. I think I was experiencing issues there as well. Okay, so we'll start with some frequently asked questions. All right. Okay. So I see a lot of questions on here about the applicant pool being small. So I think this is standard for all the service academies, that there is a minimum standard, right, for admission. So just because the applicant pool is small doesn't mean that any one person is just gonna, kind of skate into the academy that way. But the way that the nominations work, If your applicant pool is smaller with your nominating office, yes, I mean, for your local nomination, it is going to be an increased chance. As you know, for example, if you were applying out of Virginia 11, the most competitive congressional district in the country, it is going to be different, right? Because just what the gentleman alluded to earlier, the pool of candidates that you're competing with, you know, are on that level. So if it's your local representative, then it's going to be in your district. If it's the senator, then it's the state, and so on and so forth. So that's going to help you with the nominations, but you do have to, you know, be qualified to come into West Point proper and whatnot. So, yeah, great question. Great question. All right. Aviation career opportunities at West Point. Yeah, no problem, Raymond. Aviation career opportunities. So again, going back to the aviation branch, you graduate, you join the aviation branch, then you'll go to Fort Rucker, where you'll learn how to be an Army aviator and essentially gets assigned an airframe, right? So I believe they compete over there as well for which airframe they're going to be flying, if that's a CH-47, which is the giant helicopter with 2 propellers, or the Apache helicopter, attack helicopter, so on and so forth. Again, a lot of our platforms are rotary based. There are some very specialized and small roles where you might be able to fly a fixed wing, very, very small opportunities, but it is out there. I had a English teacher, a major, while I was at the academy, who was a fixed wing aviation, or Army aviation pilot. But yeah, there's a lot of Army aviation opportunities out there. So, you know, those are kind of the platforms that you'll be able to fly. You might be in a Black Hawk or a CH-47 or a Apache attack helicopter, but, you know, they kind of got a flavor for everybody out there. So that's good stuff. Yeah, no problem. No problem. All right, let's see here. Okay, so I'll just kind of tackle, while we generate some more questions, I'll just kind of tackle some of the questions that I get in frequently. So oftentimes I'll have candidates reach out and say, hey, Lieutenant Talley, I've done, you know, X, Y, and Z. I've reached a stopping point. What do I need to do next? All right, and that's fine. So I will tell you that it all goes back to the 60-30-10. If at any point you find yourself with some free time and you are curious about how to make yourself more competitive, it goes back to 60-30-10. So if it's between, you know, knocking 2 minutes off your mile and joining 5 more clubs, or going up 3 points on the ACT, I'm gonna tell you to go for the ACT every day. It's gonna increase your chances exponentially because that's a bigger portion. Now, if you can do all 3, that'd be awesome. But if you had to focus on one, you know, your general glide path is start with the 60% and then work your way to the 30% and then the 10, because those are the things, those are the data points that we're looking at. So just keep that in mind as you apply for all the service academies, but, you know, just make sure you keep that in mind, that academics are kind of first. All right. So what things should I do to have a better chance in getting into these Malite clubs? So I'll tell you, there's definitely some heavy hitting clubs out there, some heavy hitting things that we're looking at. So unfortunately, it was canceled this year, but Boys State, Girls State, huge opportunity. It shows demonstrated leadership potential, and that's going to be really high marks in our process, right? So Boys State, Girls State, Boys Nation, Girls Nation. Your Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, if you are an Eagle Scout or you receive the Gold Award, those are also some heavy hitters for that leadership category. So those are some ways that you can really stand out. I'll tell you, when I was applying to West Point, I was the president of the National Honor Society. I was president of DECA. For those, I think that's just a Texas thing maybe, but the Distribution Education Clubs of America, and the president of 2 other clubs. So I was a member of 4 clubs, and I just happened to be the president of each. It was extremely busy, but, you know, it kind of stretched me and showed me what I was really made of. So if if you have that ability to do that, then you want to make sure you're really chasing those leadership roles. You don't have to be a member of like 10 or 15 clubs, but the ones that you're in, you want to make sure that you're definitely looking at those leadership roles and trying to get elected into those positions. All right, so those are definitely some ways that you can stand out. All right, what are the main things that West Point looks for in a cadet? I'm gonna assume you mean candidate, but I'll answer both, right? So the main things that we're looking for, again, is leadership potential, that you'll have the ability to make it through the program academically and physically, right? So really heavy on those 3 pillars. And the character portion is going to tease itself out in the interview based on the essay questions we ask, the recommendations that we receive, and in the interview, right? So we'll be able to get a good picture of your character. But the 4 pillars is what we look at in both candidates and cadets, right? So when we graduate a West Point cadet, we want to make sure that we're able to say that is a commissioned leader of character. And again, it all goes back to character. So we put our stamp of approval on there. Those are the 4 things that we're going to be looking at. And throughout your West Point career, we're going to be evaluating you on those things as well. So those are some of the things that we're looking at in cadets. All right. So after graduation, do we still go through basic training? That's a great question. And the answer is no. So you only got to do basic training one time. When you come into West Point for your 6 weeks, you're going to go through cadet basic training, and you're going to learn the basics of, your warfighter skills, land navigation, marksmanship, how to wear a uniform, et cetera, et cetera. But when you graduate as a 2nd lieutenant, you have all this West Point knowledge and you have this branch, but you don't really know your role in that branch. So that's what we send you to, Basic Officer Leader Course, or BOLIC for short. And in that BOLIC class, like where I went to in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, that's where they said, hey, Lieutenant Talley, this is a Patriot missile system. And here's how you effectively use the Patriot missile system. Here's how you become a air defense officer, so on and so forth. So hopefully that answered your question. But I think I'm going over on time here. So thanks for joining us tonight. Join us tomorrow for Navy's brief. And I am going to defer back to Mrs. Harrison.
Thank you, Lieutenant Talley. We'll put up a slide, hopefully, that shows all the point of contacts. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and West Point, Captain Gilbert, for your presentation. I'm sorry we had a few technical issues. Wi-Fi can be iffy. We do have a session Wednesday night where United States Naval Academy Annapolis will present specifics. And Thursday night, both United States Coast Guard Academy and United States Merchant Marine Academy will have a combined session, a lot more good information to learn. I hope those of you that are considering the academies will consider all of them. Keep doing your research. The application to apply to all of the academies is similar in many ways. You can cast a wide net and increase your chances. And I'd also like to thank the New Mexico staffers and Miguel Negrete for his presentation. New Mexico is very supportive of their students applying to the Service Academy, and we are greatly appreciative of that. Right now, you all seen a contact slide. Please feel free to reach out to folks if you didn't get your questions answered, or if you'd like to get some personal one-on-one time. And I do hope that you will join us again Wednesday and even Thursday night to hear more about the other sister service academies. We're just a little early closing tonight, so I will just tell you all, if you're hungry for more, all the academies have awesome websites. The video you missed hearing tonight on West Point is on their website, and you definitely can do some research that way. But other than that, I will wish you all a good evening, and thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you Wednesday and Thursday night for our other academies. Thank you to everyone that participated and all our attendees. Have a good night.